Good afternoon, my name is Cadet Hogan, Cold Steel 1-6, and I'll be your platoon leader for today's operation, Operation Hercules Fate. This is your operations order. Please get out pen and paper, writing gear. I trust that the squad leaders have ensured proper accountability. This will be a platoon level area recon. Area of interest, Rockbridge County. AO is AO Pacific, this entire terrain model we've built. So to orient you, we've got your north seeking arrow here. We've got 36 to the west, 38 to the east. We've got MSR Nelson running along here, MSR Lee throughout here. We've got the Maury River to the north, and running through here, we've got 84, all right? So that kind of boxes you in here. And then for first platoon, our area of interest is NAI Steel. So to box you in there, we've got 37 to the west, 38 to the east, Maury River to the north. I'm going to trace out a few important routes that we have in our NAI and in AO Pacific. So we've got Route Panther running along the Maury River here. We've got Route Chiefs as well as Route Seahawk. All right. So let's talk terrain through OCOC. Observations in fields of fire, predominantly restricted terrain for dismounted troopers. Our best observations will come through unimproved trails. So what this means is that we need to get much closer to the enemy than we normally would and much closer than we would probably like to, but this is important. But it's also important that we remain undetected. Okay, so avenues of approach, as I previously traced, we've got these three routes running through our NAI, Route Panther, Chiefs, and Seahawks, as well as the intervisibility lines that run perpendicular to the Maury River. Key terrain, right here, indicated by leaves as the highest terrain, we have Maury Heights. This is key terrain 1. All right, 17 Sierra, Papa Bravo, 3715-8423. All right, so that's the key terrain within our NAI, where we suspect the enemy probably is, all right, because it provides the most tactical advantage. Obstacles, we've got the Maury River to the north. Cover and concealment, we've got those intervisibility lines based on the restricted terrain. All right, so moving on to the weather, we've got a high of 62 degrees, a low of 31. Wind from the north will be constant at 6 miles per hour with gusts up to 15 miles per hour. So consider this, especially you RNS teams, when you're clover leafing, as to where your noise will travel, and make sure you maintain that noise discipline so we're not discovered. All right, precipitation, we'll have a 75% chance of rain with about an inch of accumulation, up to an inch. Heavy cloud coverage, the fog will set low, so that means the high ground is where we'll have the best visibility. All right, and visibility during the day, 75 to 100 meters is your line of sight. All right, EENT will be at 1715, BMNT at 0642. Now let's talk enemy forces. So, commanders told us that the enemy has been driven to the north side of the Maury River here. Intel has told us, however, that a platoon of enemy infantry LPA has crossed from north to south into AO Pacific. So our greatest concern as to whether or not they are massing forces for an enemy offensive operation. So let's talk about this enemy platoon. They're broken down to one squad as their headquarters element, and then 3 squads of 7 to 8 troopers. All right, so that means for us, we need to prepare for at least a squad size all the way up to a platoon operating within NAI Iron. Enemies also been known to be active along these 3 routes that we have running through NAI Iron. They're armed with AK-47s, RPGs, and RPKs. Okay, the enemy also has a reserve element. They have a platoon size element north of the Maury River as a QRF. They can be anywhere within AO Pacific in 15 minutes if a squad size casualty is sustained. The most probable course of action for the enemy is that the LPA will decisively engage a squad size or smaller and break contact to a platoon rally point. The most dangerous course of action is that they do not break contact and they use infantry tactics to destroy friendly forces. Let's talk about friendlies. 2 levels up, we got the Blue Ridge Battalion conducting these coordinated operations. 1 level up, Charlie Company operating in AO Pacific. Okay, and adjacent units. We've got 2nd Platoon operating over here in NAI Copper. and we've got 3rd platoon operating down here in NAI Steel. So 2nd platoon is to our west, 3rd platoon to our south, okay? Mission. 1st platoon will conduct an area reconnaissance of NAI Iron no later than 1800, 24 November 2020 to report the disposition, strength, and location of suspected enemy and any patrols along the named routes. 1st platoon will establish a patrol base in NAI Iron for follow-on missions. I say again, 1st platoon will conduct an area reconnaissance of NAI Iron no later than 1800, 24 November 2020 to report the disposition, strength, and location of suspected enemy and any patrols along the named routes. 1st platoon will establish a patrol base in NAI Iron for follow-on missions. Execution. Let's start with the commander's intent. My intent is that we determine the disposition, strength, and composition of enemy forces in NAI Iron. This will provide intelligence for the company and battalion to conduct further offensive operations against the LPA. End state is that the disposition, strength, and location of LPA forces in NAI Iron is identified, and that 1st platoon retains no less than 100% combat power, and there's no civilian collateral damage. That last part's key, because to our south, we've got VMI. Over here to our west, we've got WNL. All right, so civilian collateral damage, really key that we don't sustain any of that. Key task, we need to recon a possible patrol base in vicinity of Key Terrain 1, Maury Heights. Okay, and we also need to conduct an area recon of Maury Heights to find the enemy. Concept of operations, 1st platoon will conduct an area reconnaissance of NAI Iron. This is an undetected reconnaissance that finds the disposition, location, and strength of the LPA. The company and battalion can then properly align offensive capabilities to disrupt and destroy the enemy forces. So this will be conducted in 4 phases. Phase 1 is your planning and preparation. This starts with the delivery of this Opord and ends when we cross the LD into NAI Iron. Phase 1 will be conducted in the company Alpha Alpha, right here, okay? Here we need to work on the platoon level rehearsals, which I will cover shortly. Phase 2 is movement. This begins at the company Alpha Alpha and ends when the leader's recon is over, once we move into NAI Iron, okay? Critical to this phase is our undetected movement throughout NAI Iron. Phase 3 is execution. This begins when the leader's recon is complete and ends when the RNS teams return to the release point. During this phase, 1st platoon will conduct undetected reconnaissance of NAI Iron, particularly Maury Heights, and collect the pertinent PIR. Phase 4 is reconsolidation and reorganization. This begins when the RNS teams return to the release point and ends when the platoon establishes a patrol base in NAI Iron. Critical to this phase is the dissemination of pertinent information gathered during this reconnaissance and the relocation of the platoon to a patrol base and the beginning of patrol base operations. The scheme of maneuver. Before I move on to the micro-terrain model, we're going to move in a little bit closer so you can take a look at the macro-terrain model, okay? All right, so moving on to the scheme of maneuver, we're going to move over here to the micro-terrain model. So to orient you once again, we've got our north-seeking arrow here, and to box you in, we've got 37 to the west, 38 to the east, 84 to the south. All right, Maury River to the north, Route Panther here, Route Chiefs running along here, and Route Seahawks here, with our key terrain, Maury Heights, right here indicated with the leaves as the high ground. All right, we've got our company Alpha Alpha down here. Okay, so phase 1 is the distribution of the ammunition. So this is taking place in the company Alpha Alpha. Each soldier will receive 30 rounds of 5.56, 400 rounds for the saws, and each 7.62 will get 100 rounds. 10 minutes from now, I'd like a confirmation brief from the squad leaders, letting me know that they understand their roles and what's expected of them to successfully complete this mission. If we take contact in the company Alpha Alpha, 1st platoon will respond with direct fire to the enemy. 2nd platoon and 3rd platoon will hold the perimeter. All right, so for us, that means we need to rehearse reactive contact, okay? Returning fire, shouting out the 3 Ds, finding cover and concealment. We need to rehearse those, be familiar with them, be prepared as a platoon to react to contact, okay? The CCP is also at the company Alpha Alpha, as well as HLZ Swan. I'll get you the grid coordinates for that in just a moment. All right, this is critical to keep in mind that the CCP and the helicopter landing zone are back at the company Alpha Alpha. Okay, phase 2 is when we'll cross the LD, which is the perimeter of the company Alpha Alpha. 17 Sierra, Papa Bravo, 3733-8406. I'll say that again, that's the coordinates for the company Alpha Alpha. 17 Sierra, Papa Bravo, 3733-8406. We will then travel at a 300-degree azimuth for about 100 meters into NAI iron. Okay? 17 Sierra, Papa Bravo, 3734-8425. All right, so once we're in NAI iron, we have a clear divide along the 37 here between us and 2nd Platoon, and the 84 here between us and 3rd Platoon. Okay? So in phase 2, we're moving out along this azimuth. We'll stop, conduct a security halt. I'll move off, conduct my leader's recon. Okay? So during this movement, this brief movement we have, we will be in bounding overwatch. Our order of movement will be security, assault 1, assault 2, and then the weapons squad. So we'll travel along that route. Okay? Halt for the leader's recon. On my leader's recon, I'd like the squad leaders, a rifleman from assault 1, a rifleman from assault 2, and a saw gunner. All right, so then that moves us in to phase 3. Phase 3, where undetected movement is absolutely critical to this phase. Now let's discuss a few contingencies first. If we do receive contact, we need to break contact and come back to the company Alpha Alpha. The company commander does not want us showing our full strength, disposition, and location to the enemy forces. All right, we need to remain undetected. Okay? If we take a casualty, however, we need to evacuate them to the company Alpha Alpha. If necessary, we can break off a small element and move them back undetected to the company Alpha Alpha, the CCP and the HLZ. So I'll move out on the leader's recon, establish my release point. I'll then take those 2 riflemen as well as the saw gunner, put them here as my LPOP. They'll keep eyes on the objective. Okay? We'll move back to the release point, go back to the security halt, grab the security squad. They're broken up into 2 RNS teams. Each of these RNS teams, after my warno, they should have come prepared. They should be broken up and have within each RNS team a security element as well as a recon and surveillance element. So it's both combined into one. So I'll bring them back to the release point. We'll start using the fan. They'll start using the fan method, these RNS teams, to get into position, one moving to the west, one moving to the east, in order to gain this reconnaissance on key terrain 1, Mari Heights. All right, so I need these RNS teams to answer a few questions. What is the size of enemy elements in vicinity of Mari Heights? What is the disposition and location of enemy forces? Is there evidence of enemy forces massing to greater than platoon size? What weapon systems are being used? What's the smallest weapon system? What's the largest weapon system? Are there any vehicles? Are they using vehicles to move along these named routes? What size element do they operate in? From these RNS teams, I also need a full sketch of what they're observing and a written report of what they're observing. So then that moves us into phase 4. We'll return to our security halt. All right, then we'll move out, form a patrol base within NAI Iron. I will collect these reports from the RNS teams, consolidate all this information, distribute it among the platoon, and then I'll send a runner from wherever our patrol base is in the vicinity of Key Terrain 1 to take that intel to the company commander located at the company Alpha Alpha. All right, he doesn't want this sent over the network. He wants physical paper copies, so we'll send a runner for that. So reports required during this mission is if we have any enemy contact, a salute report from the RNS teams, any prisoners of war, lace reports if we take contact, and then when we establish a patrol base. All right, so to give you a brief timeline, at 15:30, first platoon will cross the LD. 1600, we'll conduct our leader's recon. By 1715, at the end of EMNT, I'd like to complete the area recon. All right, and at 18:15, we'll establish our patrol base. So in terms of rehearsals, like I previously mentioned, we'll be moving and bounding Overwatch. That's something to rehearse, okay? RNS teams from 3rd Squad will be led by their team leaders. They'll use the fan method. This is something they need to practice, particularly with this constant wind and these large gusts. They need to be aware of this and practice moving and know where their sound's going and understand that they need to remain undetected. We also need to focus on breaking contact if we receive contact, all right? Sustainment, I'll be briefing the sustainment paragraph since the platoon sergeant is elsewhere right now. So all the weapons maintenance will be completed in the company Alpha Alpha over here. Grid coordinates for that has already been briefed. All transportation will be on foot, be prepared for a kilometer, maybe more. All soldiers will carry 1 MRE and 2 quarts of water. And Class 5 ammunition has already been briefed. The medevac will be at HLZ Swan, 17 Sierra Papa Bravo 3733 8406, same as the company Alpha Alpha. And I've identified 1 ambulance exchange point. The company commanders asked us to identify this. I've put it right here at the intersection between Route Chiefs and Route Seahawks. All right, so if necessary, if it's absolutely critical, we can get transportation to that point. All right. Command and signal. As platoon leader, I'll be at the release point to receive the reports. Succession of command will be PL to PSG, 1st squad leader, 2nd squad leader, 3rd squad leader, then the 4th squad leader. All right, number combination is 7. Challenge is fire, password is baton. Running password is thunder. Recognition signal during the day if they're near is PT belt on person. If they're far, PT belt overhead. All right, this concludes my Opord brief. The time's now 1500. What are your questions? All right, since there's no questions, let's get working on those rehearsals, order of movement, bounding Overwatch, breaking contact, reacting to contact if we're at the company Alpha Alpha. All right, let's get after it.